and welcome to this International Women's event in collaboration with MACFEST and also Qaisra Mosque. I'm one of your hosts today. My name is Sandra. I'm a volunteer at Qaisra Mosque and also volunteer in the local community. And I'm also been involved with MACFEST as a volunteer for the last few years. Under normal circumstances, we would welcome you. This event would normally be hosted at Qaisra Mosque. So under normal circumstances, we would be welcoming you with entertainment, poetry, talks, and also samosas and food. But under the circumstances, sadly, we have to do this event via Zoom. I hope you enjoy the event, and I hope that it goes successfully. This is my first time hosting on Zoom, so hopefully it all goes well. I'd like to introduce to you Sajid Amin. Sajid Amin is a community volunteer and trustee at the Qaisra Mosque based in North Manchester. He's been involved in mentoring the youth, helping raise aspirations and working with achieving greater community engagement, both regionally and nationally. Over to you, Sajid.
Thank you, Sandra. On behalf of everyone at Qaisra Mosque, welcome to MACFEST 2021, celebrating International Women's Day. Today's event is Women of Faith Celebrate Their Cultural Heritage. I wanted to send a warm welcome to all of our guests and viewers, wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Thank you for joining us today. It is great partnering with MACFEST once again, and a huge thanks to Qaisra and her wonderful team for organising this event, as well as the rest of the festival. I know that a lot of time and expense has been invested in it. We have held some great events over the years, and it has been an honour to be part of it. Over recent years, since MACFEST was formed, it has held a number of groundbreaking events across Manchester, and we are proud to be part of this important project, and we wish it all the success and support moving forwards. Sadly, as Sandra alluded to, we cannot meet in person this time, but hopefully next time around, it will be different and we can all come back from this difficult period stronger together, and we can share in some samosas as well. Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you, Sajid, for that warm welcome. I'd like to introduce to you our lovely host, Qaisra Shahraz. Qaisra is an international novelist, scriptwriter, educationist, former Ofsted inspector, and a prize-winning peace and gender activist. She spent 15 years volunteering to promote community cohesion and interfaith relationships, including through her roles as the co-chair of Faith Network for Manchester and a trustee of We Stand Together. She is the founder and executive director of MACFEST, and she's going to give a short introduction as well as doing something shortly later on in our programme. Over to you, Qaisra.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Sajid, for those lovely words. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning. I know Maria is in New York, and so is Chris. And namaste to our Hindu friend, and shalom to our Jewish friends and our guests, and Sat Sri Akal to our Sikh guest as well. I'd like to welcome all our attendees and our speakers on behalf of Faith Network for Manchester and MACFEST Muslim Art and Culture Festival. As Sandra has already mentioned, we normally have this event at the lovely Qaisra Mosque. It's with Faith Network, and we stand together. We have nice cozy chat, we talk, we discuss, and we have this marvelous feast afterwards. However, this is different time, and Zoom does not quite lend itself to nice cozy chats. It's very public. So I thought, what can we do? We thought we'd get together as a group of women and sort of provide some sort of entertainment, the sort of thing we can't do normally in a mosque, but we would engage. And something special this year is that I've tried my best to represent as many faiths as we can. So in one sense, it's a learning journey for us. And I'm delighted and honored that all these lovely, wonderful women representing different faiths are taking part. And I'm also equally delighted this year because thanks to Zoom, we have one of our sponsors also taking part, Marie Banzon Prince. She's sitting in New York at this moment. It's 9 o'clock there. She just had a breakfast and she is one of our chief guests. And then I have the other lovely lady who's also a chief guest is Gabrielle. Gabrielle Addlestone, wife of our former High Sheriff. She will do a little speech as well. And then, of course, our own colleague, dear friend, Sir Peter Fahey, who is the chair of We Stand Together. And he will welcome, as Sandra will introduce him in a bit. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Qaisra, for your welcome. I'd like to next introduce Sir Peter Fahey, for he was one of our guest speakers. Sir Peter Fahey is the former Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, and he's also the chair of We Stand Together, a community cohesion charity. He founded We Stand Together to bring communities and faith groups to work together in the wake of terrorist attacks. He's also an active member of the Catholic Church and also a trustee of a number of charities working on housing, social care and refugee initiatives.
So Peter Fahey, you need to mute yourself.
Sorry, I thought the host was unmuted. No, I do apologise. I'll start again. It's absolutely wonderful to be at this event on this very special day, but particularly to be part of MACFEST, which has been such a tremendous series of different celebrations, and of course is continuing on throughout the next few months. And it is obviously the Manchester Muslim Art Festivals, which says something very important also about Manchester and its great diversity, which is one of its great strengths. I happen to be a Catholic, and I find it really interesting that this event is happening today when Pope Francis is in Iraq, showing incredible leadership and quite a lot of personal courage, particularly reaching out to leaders of the Muslim faith in that country, and particularly speaking up for the Christians there. And it obviously reminds us, sadly, that in various countries of the world, people are not free to practice their own faith. And sadly, faith and religion can be a source of great division. Indeed, I've been reading Pope Francis's latest book, and he says to dream of a different future, we need to choose fraternity over individualism as our organizing principle. And he also talks about that we need to talk to the other. And that was really the principle on which I started We Stand Together in 2015. It was a time when there was a lot of tension, particularly between Muslim and Jewish groups, because of terrorist attacks at that time in Paris. And what really struck me when I was talking to people was how what unites us is far, far stronger than what divides us. And, you know, in my own example, every time I've had a chance to visit a mosque or to visit a synagogue, to talk to people of a different faith, it's quite incredible that you just realize how strong the bands that unite us are. But also We Stand Together was very much about you can only move forward if you actually understand one another. Sadly, we can't gather in the same room today and talk to one another, but by the wonders of technology, at least, we can celebrate diversity. We can learn particularly about the Muslim faith and all the arts and the culture. But really, it's by only sitting down and talking to one another and getting behind the stereotypes that we build that great community cohesion. It's not sort of smoothing over differences or saying they don't exist, but it is understanding each other, and it's just understanding the great strength that brings. And of course, if we look across the great faiths, they do tend to be patriarchies. On the other hand, when we look across the world and see some of the conflicts and divisions, sadly, it's men that tend to have started those. So I think it's also wonderful that it's women in this event that are taking the lead and showing the way forward. So there's lots of challenges out there at the moment. There's lots of pain, lots of worries. But on the other hand, you know, the very fact that we have this wonderful event where we can celebrate our diversity, where we can learn about different faiths and very much stand together, even if we're doing it virtually, is really, really important. So I very much want to welcome everybody to this event. Thank you to all the organisers, particularly to the great Qaisra Mosque, which I always enjoy visiting. And again, is a great example of a Muslim institution that's constantly reaching out to others in the community. So I'm sure we're going to have a really wonderful afternoon's events of different aspects of culture. And so, I look forward to everything that's going to be there this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Peter, for your warm welcome. I'd like to next introduce our second chief guest speaker, Gabrielle Addlestone. She's a mother of 3 and soon to be grandmother. She's also a trustee on the board of Jewish Women's Aid, which is a charity dealing with domestic abuse and sexual violence within the Jewish community. She's also a volunteer wish coordinator for Rays of Sunshine, granting wishes for seriously ill children.
Oh, right, I'm unmuted. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really thrilled to have been asked by Qaisra to speak at this event, celebrating the start of International Women's Day week. It is indeed a very hectic week of events for many people. As you have heard, I am a trustee on the board for Jewish Women's Aid, a charity supporting female victims of domestic abuse and sexual violence within the Jewish community. And we actually have a full program of events this week starting tomorrow. 18 months ago, Qaisra kindly invited me and my husband, who was then High Sheriff of Greater Manchester, to a wonderful and inspiring event at the Whitworth Gallery, which celebrated Muslim women from all over the world and their different cultures. Our theme for the year was diversity and integration, and this was a perfect example for us to see a wide variety of cultures coming under the Muslim banner. MACFEST helped us realize that whilst we are from different religions and backgrounds, ultimately we are all women, mothers, sisters and grandmothers. And as you've heard, I myself am going to become a grandma this August when our first daughter gives birth to our first grandchild. We all want the best for our families and to live peacefully and in harmony with everyone else in the world. But we need to embrace the beauty of diversity in society. The International Women's Day campaign theme this year is Choose to Challenge. We can all choose to celebrate women's achievements, and collectively we can all help to create an inclusive world. Let's encourage activity that allows women to pursue our goals without bias or barriers. Here's to strong women. May we be them, may we know them, and may we raise them. I wish this event every success, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Gabrielle, for your kind words. I'd like to now introduce our third chief guest speaker, Marie Banson-Prince. Marie manages the operations of the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding and works on its global grassroots programs such as Season of Twinning. In this role, she strengthens the Foundation's relationships with its partners in the US and around the world, and cultivates new collaborations in promoting interfaith and intercultural dialogue and projects. She's also a graduate of New York's University Global Affairs postgraduate program, and she's joining us today from New York.
Hi, my name is Marie Banson-Prince, and I am here representing the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding, which is a major sponsor of MACFEST since it started in 2018. So Foundation for Ethnic Understanding, or FFEU, was founded in 1989 by Rabbi Mark Schneier and the late Joseph Papp, while the tensions were increasing between the Jewish and African American communities. And for 2 decades, FFEU was instrumental in repairing this historic alliance. And our founder, Rabbi Schneier, wrote the seminal book, Shared Dreams, Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement, which is the definitive text in Black-Jewish relations. And in 2014, FFEU was honored by the United States Congress as the national address for Black-Jewish relations. Since 2007, FFEU has pioneered and become the global address for Muslim-Jewish relations. Our programs span over 30 countries on 6 continents in partnership with grassroots organizations. Our 3 major Muslim grassroots initiatives are Season of Twinning, which MACFEST is a part of, and a European Muslim Jewish program and Muslim Jewish Solidarity Committees. Season of Twinning, which is FFEU's signature program, is an annual event where thousands of Muslims and Jews link up in scores of cities in more than 30 countries. And then the event is usually held around November or December. Mosques and synagogues, Muslim and Jewish student groups, young leadership bodies, and women's organizations twin with each other in cities around the world and hold events focused on celebrating the similarities in the two faith traditions. So together, they show support in combating Islamophobia and anti-Semitism by performing acts of social service together in recognition of the common moral imperative in both Islam and Judaism. We also have the program, social media campaign, Muslims Are Speaking Out, which MACFEST is also a part of, which was launched in 2016. It is a campaign combating extremism and Islamophobia, and it is directed against the canard that Muslims do not speak out against the terrorist attacks, citing the overwhelming condemnation of terrorist violence by virtually all Muslim leaders and organizations in the United States and around the world. So the campaign showcases the leading role in the fight against extremists who have hijacked the narrative of Islam and highlights the positive contributions Muslims bring to our societies and their sustained efforts to nurture ties with other faith communities. And in spirit of the conversation today, which is Women of Faith, I guess I'm proud to represent also the Catholic faith, and I am very honored to be to join this webinar and for the International Women's Month.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you. I'd like to now go on to the next part of our program, which is the entertainment program. I'd like to introduce a friend of mine, Anne Alga, who is going to be reading some poetry for us this afternoon. Anne is involved in the Faith Network for Manchester Women of Faith. I've met her on a number of occasions when she's been to visit us at Qaisra Masjid. So I'd like to introduce you. Over to you, Anne.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, namaste. I'm really pleased to be involved in this wonderful International Women's Day or International Women's Month program. I was asked to do something, so I would like to read a poem from a wonderful woman who was so multi-talented that she was almost impossible to to believe she was true. I first found out about her in the 80s, and I was lucky enough to see her live at the Philharmonic Hall in Liverpool, I think in 1985, and she was absolutely amazing. Her name is Maya Angelou, and I know a lot of you will already know her, but I'd like to read her poem, which is called And Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the very dust, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset by gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like the moon and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard? You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds, at the kneading of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's past, I rise. Up from the past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Thank you, Anne, for that lovely reading of that poem. I'd like to introduce you our next guest, Dr. Jackie Lewis. Dr. Jackie Lewis also works under her maiden name of Jackie Rose. She's been an executive member of the Muslim Jewish Forum for many years. She's also the co-chair of Salford Health Communities Together with Jackie Harrison. She's also co-written To Life, Healthy Jewish Food with her cousin, Judy Rose.
Thank you, Sandra. And thank you, Anne, for the beautiful poem. I think it's really suitable that, well, appropriate that Nazanin Zaghari Radcliffe may actually be being released or being well, and hopefully she will rise and she will get home and be able to be with her husband and family before too long. So I'm just going to very briefly talk about healthy eating, as that's my thing that I've been so focused on this last year. I've actually been really angry with the government because I felt as though this is something that should have been promoted with a lot more effort and noise over the last year, alongside all the other messages about keeping one's distance, wearing face masks, and now getting vaccinated, because it's an important strand that has been neglected. So what I'd have said had I had the opportunity was that I would love for people in general to try to reduce sugar as much as possible, reduce starchy foods, junk food, alcohol. When I say starchy foods, I mean things like bread, pasta, rice, and potatoes, which can all break down and increase one's blood sugar. At the same time, I'd have said that I'd like an increase in whole foods, healthy whole foods, lots of fruit and vegetables, and oily fish, all of which can help immunity. Things like nuts and eggs also. But I haven't had the opportunity I'd hoped for, but I'll tell you more about that after, what I've tried to do and the small amounts that I have managed. In the Asian diet, people have an advantage. They have a lot of herbs and spices, really high in antioxidants, and maybe a lot more home-cooked food too, which is so much healthier than convenience foods. The disadvantage is that an Asian diet is very much based around a lot of grains, a lot of rice, perhaps quite a lot of bread, and the sharing of sweet foods at festivals. A Jewish diet also is sometimes not the healthiest. We've got Passover coming up, and matzah, though it's low in calories, is actually a refined starch, and people squash it into all their meals during the week of Passover, and they also slather it in stuff like a jam made of beetroot and have more cakes and things. So Jewish festivals too can be a bit sugar heavy, which is a shame. So going back to what I tried to do, I actually tried to get on one of those opportunities to give a question to Boris. I also wrote to Mank Hancock more than once. I wrote to various radio programs and I tried to get on, or when there were talk-ins, again, I tried to get in. I did manage to do a talk together with Mohammed Hussein on the Bangladeshi internet radio Coffee with Khan. I also, together with Ashok Mehta, I got onto the Bolton Hindu Forum radio. The real tragedy here is that our host was absolutely delightful gentleman, Manu Mistry, and he was chief executive of Bolton Hindu Forum. And he later actually passed away with COVID, which we were devastated to hear. So why is nutrition so important? Because good nutrition can help your immune system and give you another defense against COVID. And it's actually been shown that hospital admissions with severe COVID, about 20% have been people with diabetes. If any of you have diabetes, the important thing is it's about the control. So people with really good control of their diabetes, the risks aren't so much above the general population. It's where the diabetes is out of control that things get difficult. And also obesity, raised blood pressure, these things all increase risk. So about 63.5% of hospital admissions for severe COVID have been due to these kind of conditions, and all of which could potentially have been helped through the right diet and through exercise. So I'm going to quickly wrap up, but people from a BAME background, unfortunately, they are at more risk of diabetes and heart disease and such. So embracing healthy lifestyle is so important. Other aspects are things like maybe working in professions that bring you more face-to-face with the public, maybe being in more overcrowded housing, but diabetes is really important as a risk factor. So I wanted to show you very quickly something I've found recently that I think is so wonderful, which is called Carbs and Cal's World Foods. And just as an example, here at the bottom of the page, you can see biryani, and each of these little circles represents a spoon of sugar. So people aren't aware that in a dish like biryani, you have so many spoons. Basically, the rice breaks down to release glucose, and that raises the blood sugar as much as all those spoons of sugar. So that's why I recommend something like this, so that people can actually see the impact the food they have is likely to be having on the blood sugar. I tend to say that if you look after the sugar in your diet and the starchy carbs, then your calories will look after themselves. So if people want a longer talk on this subject at a later time, if you let Qaisra know, I'd be absolutely delighted to do so. And I hope you will all be vaccinated soon if you've not already been, and get through the rest of this epidemic in very good health. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie, for your valuable advice on nutrition. I think it's much needed, especially when a lot of us are working from home and not getting enough exercise and not eating properly. I'd like to introduce to you now Cantor Walker. Cantor is an artist and a writer. She came to Britain in the 1960s, and she's worked with the Asian communities in the Longside and Moss Side areas, and has set up educational and recreational facilities for families, and also a women's refuge in Manchester in the 80s. She's very happy writing poetry and painting, and ascribes to the philosophy of MACFEST for all communities to live in harmony. She's going to share with us her artwork and also hopefully read some poetry. Cantor, would you mind just muting? Thank you.
Right. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I'm very grateful for Qaisra to invite me. to such a wonderful event, which is so educational and informative and brings people of all faiths together. I think as the world is growing now with, COVID and everything, we need to merge our differences and be just human beings. And in my writing and my paintings, this is my aim, to bring everyone together. And in my paintings, it's also, there's a great deal of spirituality, because there's a sense of being lost in your art, because there's nothing outside. I've been fortunate. I had 14 awards from the Arts Council and 2 awards for publishing my poetry and my paintings. So in a way, I think everyone has been very generous to me concerning my art. Now I'll show you about 4 paintings. And I think my aim is to emphasize the color blue, because blue has a lot of meaning for both Islam and other faiths. And of course, the sky is blue, our planet is blue, and I love using the color blue. So I'll show you 3 or 4 paintings, depending on time, about what blue means to me and my art. Here is my first painting. Can you see it all?
Yes, we can see it. Sister can't.
Yeah, it's a landscape with a nature reserve, and you can see the water where the animals are, little birds and wading ducks are swimming. It's autumn, so all the greenery and everything is turned to this beautiful reddish brown. And then there's the blue sky and the trees. So in some ways it shows the wholeness of nature as it is, as it presents itself to heal us, because nature is very healing. I'll go to the next painting, and that's a little lake called Annerdale. And as you see, again, the blue emphasizes all the white foam that's being generated with the water coming in. And then you see the hills beyond. And what I like about this painting is this little tree, because it somehow or other completes it. If I left the tree out, I don't think it would have made it complete. If you want to ask any questions, I can stop, or you can ask me questions at the end of it, just as you like. My third painting, as you see, is a combination of lot of colors and the sun. And it has been admired and exhibited so many times, and people really love this painting. I sold a lot of my painting, but I haven't wanted to sell this, so it's still with me. And there are many shades of blue, and you can see the waves, the ripples on the water, and the hills, the distant hills are darker, and the hills nearby are lighter. And then there are all these trees growing on one side. You see, again, the blue is emphasized in this painting, which is another lake, because I used to live in the Lake District. I had a studio there. So I painted largely the local scenes. And there are all these hills coming together. Now this is an Indian painting. This is the river Ganges, and it's away from the crowded areas as it comes out from the hills. And there are lots of flowers, different colors, and there are forests on this side, and there are a whole lot of Himalayas, peaks there, and then there's the sun setting. So these are some of my blue paintings. I wonder if you want to ask any questions, because we got only limited time.
It's Cantor sister, we don't have time for questions. If you want to read your poem, please.
Right, okay. Are we all right for time for my poem?
Yes, definitely. We want to hear your poem. Absolutely.
Yes, right. Well, again, in my poetry, I really celebrate nature. And the two poems I'm going to read to you have been written only in the last couple of months. The second one is just been written, I think, the week before.
Wow, thank you.
And you'll see how the imagination works for a poet. It's a bit different than writing fiction, because you got to have a lot more imagery and metaphors and almost paint with words. This is in the autumn, and it's called Life in Death and Death in Life. On Hounslow Heath, life in death, death in life. Raw elements dance in buffeting wind, gather and scatter the few remaining leaves, clinging in hope to the branches. They're unwilling to let go of the mother tree who nurtured them. A beech leaf carries a larvae, clinging to its lovingly cushioned cradle. The wind howls, swoops it up like a hungry eagle, and carries up in the air, beyond my darting vision that follows it. If the larvae is fortunate, it will find a warm nest. In a pile of leaves, grow fat, hibernate, maybe even turn into a chrysalis, a moth or a butterfly. It could equally rot and decay, become compost and feed this earth. Just wait and see. Balance in nature is precarious and awesome. Whatever its fate, we all return to earth. I reflect and move on. The second poem has more fantasy in it, and writing it was quite fun. It is called The Sun Daughter. Wayward daughter of the sun followed a rain cloud. It was different. It was a shapeshifter, had the talent to turn into a dark, fearful monster or change into a cotton wool quilt. It was damp and wet. Drenched her to please, she danced and cavorted in the rain. She followed him some more, till it covered the horizon from end to end and made the sky look like the night. Unpredictable, it thundered and roared. Mesmerized, sodden wet, she stayed and ran after him, captured him. And married him. 11 years and 11 months passed, and she began to yearn for the light. Her body was chilled. She was always cold, and began to search for the rainbows and the pale yellow of the sun. One day, when she had despaired and given up hope, she saw the merest rim, the tiniest speck of the father's sun. She ran and ran, tearing the wind in all directions until she found him. She was tired. She yawned and fell into a deep sleep and found a place where all the rainbow clouds, the sun, the moon, and the stars were one. So if you interpreted it, it's quite spiritual. It means the unity in diversity in life. So That's my contribution for you. I thank you very much for being kind to me and listening to me.
Thank you, Kanta, for sharing your lovely artwork and your words of poetry. Thank you. I'd like to reintroduce Qaisra. As the many things that Qaisra does, she is an international novelist, and Qaisra is going to now read to us an excerpt from her novel.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Kanta, for your wonderful contribution. I'm going to read to you from my third novel, Revolt. Because we're celebrating women, most of my work, the novels that I write fiction, they're heavily populated with women, women's themes. And the scene I'm going to read is a very short extract right at the end. It's between two sisters. The novel covers a lot. It covers racism. It covers generational clashes, cultural clashes. It's set in Liverpool, set in a village in Pakistan. There are three sisters, wealthy landlord sisters. They're all different. And the scene I'm going to read to you is between the two sisters, Gulbahar, who is the main wonderful sister. And then she has a middle sister called Rani. Rani's always had problems in her life. And here she's going to share with her sister something she's going to do, which is shocking for her sister. Rani could not make up her mind as to which sister to speak to, Marine or Gulbahar. In the end, it was her elder sister she honored by her visit and insisted on privacy, shuttling her sister up to the roof terrace. Unlike Gulbahar, Rani trusted no one, especially not the servants. The matter she was about to divulge was too personal, only to be entrusted to the bosom of her loyal sister. Begum had served the refreshment and was then dismissed. I have something to tell you, Gulbahar, Rani solemnly began, sitting at a patio table facing her sister, finger circling the rim of a cool glass of sherbet. Gulbahar waited, steeling herself for some bad news. Gaze faltering, Rani began. I'm going to do something. Eyes on the basket of petunia flowers hanging from the marble colonnade. She continued, not that I need your or anyone's permission, but out of respect, I have come to you. Gulbahar stared, still none the wiser. Rani, she coldly prompted. Today, this afternoon, I'm defying convention, abandoning the customs of female modesty. Rani, Gulbahar's heart was thudding. What was her sister trying to say? In a steady voice, Rani announced, her gaze falling, I'm visiting a man. Seconds ticked away. Gulbahar's lips parted, breath caught, staring at her sister. Visiting a man? She queried, trying to make sense of her sister's words. What are you saying, Rani? Which man and why? To her horror, Rani's face folded in distress, silent sobs shuddering her body. A dying man. Eyes wide, Gulbahar reached for her sister's hand across the round table. From the courtyard downstairs, Gulbahar could hear Begum chanting, Me too, me too. Mouth parted. Rani, she prompted again, standing behind her sister. A man whom I should have and could have married, but did not. She stopped, sobbing afresh. He is in hospital. One day, I'll tell you all about him and how much he means to me. Today, I neither want nor have the time. Gulbahar nodded, dismayed. Her sister had become a stranger. Who was this man? And why did Rani not marry him? Nobody would have stopped her. Rani cynically dug into her sister's thoughts. I know what you're thinking and feeling, but I don't care. I need to go to be with him for whatever time he has left. I can't bear to lose him. If only I could turn the clock back. Why did I give him up? Please pray for him, Gulbahar, that I'm not too late. I will, Gulbahar softly promised, letting go of her. Do what you have to do. My love and support is with you. So that's a little scene I wanted to read to you between the two sisters. You will have to read this book, won't you, to find out who this man is. Okay, thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Qaisra, for taking us for reading out your excerpt from one of your novels. I'm going to hand over the hosting duties now to Khadija. Khadija works at the Faith Network for Manchester as a communications officer, and she's also currently project managing a project funded by Sports England called This Girl Can, which will focus on introducing women into sports and organising different sports-related workshops throughout the year. The first event will take place towards the end of this month in celebration of International Women's Day, with a panel of women who are involved in sports and who will be sharing their journeys and stories. And please do continue to comment in the chat as well in relation to the programme. Over to you, Khadija.
Thank you, Sandra. Up first, we have Marilyn Berg, who was born and grew up in Salford, Manchester. She taught English for 29 years in comprehensive schools in Manchester and Stockport. She was appointed as a JP in 2007. From 2016 to 18, she was vice chairman of her synagogue Yesh Harun Hebrew congregation in Galilee, where she took on the interfaith brief. In 2014, she won the Jewish Federation of Social Services Laughter Factor at the Comedy Store. She is a proud and blessed wife, mother, and grandmother. So over to you, Marilyn.
Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you for the invitation to attend and take part in such a beautiful event. I have to apologise for my sultry voice. I think it's all the sunshine in Chile Hume. It's drying out my larynx. I'd like to say hello to everybody. Some people I know, some people I don't know. I'd like to say to Marie, I haven't met you, but thank you for joining us breakfast time from New York. And I hope you've noticed that Gabrielle has also just got up. She's speaking to us from her bedroom. And I have to say, your pajamas are lovely, Gabrielle. And when I finish, you can go back to bed. And also to Sajid Fahey, if I may speak to you. You probably won't remember this, but several years ago, you visited the National Trust at Dunham Massey, and you bought a raffle ticket off me to help with conservation. Well, I just want to tell you that you've not won, so you may as well throw the ticket away. So I wanted to deliver my sermon, if you like, about lockdown. How has lockdown impacted upon us? Well, at the start of lockdown, getting on now for 12 months ago, I thought that I should use the time constructively. So I decided to clear out the fridge. And amongst many things, I found a jar of jam that apparently had been a favourite of Queen Victoria's. So that had to go. Delving back into the fridge, I also found that I was cultivating several sorts of penicillin. Oh, so no. I'm just beginning to think whether I am actually the discoverer of penicillin. So then I thought it would be a great opportunity, lockdown, to declutter the house. Put your hands up if you've thought of decluttering the house. So some are going up. Right. So I have Muslim neighbours. They're originally from Bangladesh. And normally we get on ever so well, you know, normally. But I have to confess that during this abnormal time, we went through a bit of a wobble. So I decided to declutter. And as a courtesy to them, I went next door to ask them if they would mind if I had a skip outside. And they said to me, no, you could do with the exercise, Fatty. But we managed to get over that. Now, one of the drawbacks of having Muslims and Jews living next door to each other is that it tends to lead to a bit, it makes part of the street very boring at Christmas. Because the rest of the street, we've got gigantic reindeer heads lit up with twinkly lights. We've got Santa Claus sliding down drain pipes. We've got him going down the chimney. We've got Santa's little helpers, goblins and elves all over the place. Everything's lit up, twinkly, beautiful. You come to the Muslim house and the Jewish house, nothing. And I have heard some people walk past, look and say, miserable. So how have we been exercising during lockdown? Well, for my husband Jonathan's last birthday, now when I say last birthday, I mean the previous one, not that I'm going to kill him and he won't have any more. I decided to buy him one of these very arty-farty exercise bikes. You know, you can put earphones on and you can key in where you want to be. And I suggested that he put it in the garage. I thought, what a very good place for him to be, in the garage, out the way. And he disappears now for hours, and he's either cycling through the Pyrenees or down some leafy lane in Devon or Cornwall. But together, we've been on some very serious walks, very serious. Cagoule, thick socks, walking boots. But we always seem to choose to go out after a period of sustained, unrelenting torrential rain. We normally end up wading waist deep through flooded fields, up to the waist in mud. But styles don't faze us, dry stone walls, fences. I'm like a gazelle, up and over I go. In fact, when I come back, I think, you know, well, when we do arrive back, we look like two extras from the film set of 1917. You'll only get that if you've seen the film. And God forbid that we have not completed the mandatory 10,000 steps. We're trudging up and down the garden, counting 9,821, 9,822. And I think at the end of all this, I should be made an honorary officer of the SAS, to be honest. Now, shopping, you know, we've had to change the way that we shop, and also the clothes that we wear. I decide now, am I going to don the mask and gown and look like somebody from Holby City who's about to carry out a kidney transplant? Or do I go for the visor look, as if I'm going to do a spot of spot welding in Sainsbury's? And how have we kept occupied? Friends have recommended box set binging. Now, we've got some friends who apparently have not been seen for 3 months because they're catching up with 128 episodes of some drama that appeared on the television. So we were recommended to watch Bridgerton. If you've not seen that and you want warming up, well, I would watch that. Watch Sherlock Holmes, watch Game of Thrones. But to be honest, Jonathan and I, we decided that we would catch up with Peaky Blinders. Does anybody know Peaky Blinders? I hope that you're not admitting to it. Yes. Janet, yes, you're right. It's violent, but it's really very watchable. Now, I'm not very technological, but I thought I really have to learn how to book something online. So I went online to buy the box set of Peaky Blinders. And as I was ordering it, all these unwanted adverts kept popping up. But miraculously, I managed to navigate my way through. And then I got to the stage where it says, add to basket. Ping. And then it says, pay. Ping. And then I submitted my order. Felt very proud of myself. A couple of days later, there was a ring at the doorbell, and in the porch, because I live in quite a posh house with a porch. In the porch was the biggest carton I have ever seen.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Jonathan, and which God are you referring to, Qaisra? You've got to be careful what you say here. wash your mouth out with Listerine. I won't say alcohol because you'll cut me off anyway. So in the porch was the biggest carton I've ever seen, and Jonathan and I took us both to carry it in. So I sliced it open, went through the bubble wrap, the cardboard, the bubble wrap. Inside, 144, 112 dozen, 144 incontinence pads for leaky bladders. So I'm thinking, I know the Muslim religion doesn't do gambling, and I think that might, that might include raffles. But when my synagogue gets back to normal and we have events with raffles, I think 24 incontinence pads is a very good first prize, and 3 for second. So I think, as my husband very often says to me after 5 minutes, your time's up. And I think I shall finish here. But again, I want to thank you so much for such a lovely event. And it just shows you that how everybody, and especially women, because what unites women besides like, well, womanly things and culture, whatever, is our hatred of men. So, and Marie, I'd like to say to you, when we actually are able to fly again to New York, you don't have to fly me first class. But if you want a comedy gig, I'll come economy class. I'm quite happy.
I'll take a look at
that. And God bless everybody. Shalom.
That was wonderful. Wow, amazing, everyone. Thank you. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn, for bringing the laughter. Up next, we have Nabila Farouk, who is a Women of Faith community worker and an allied health professional whose expertise is bringing people affected by cancer together so that their voices can be heard. Art and culture also plays a vital role in helping people with any health-related issues overcoming emotional and psychological concerns. Nabila is going to be showcasing Mendi and poetry.
Right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to everyone who is joining us this afternoon for our International Women's Day event on behalf of Women of Faith, Faith Network for Manchester. And we are here today to celebrate art and culture as part of MACFEST and bringing together everyone from all different backgrounds, communities and faiths. As Khadija mentioned, my background is community engagement and development and health. I do a lot of work where it comes to cancer. I would like to sort of emphasize here that as women, it is important that we look after our health in every aspect, and art and culture can bring about healing physically and psychologically on many levels. So it can be in the form of writing, like Qaisra does, drawing, painting, listening to music, singing or reading. Therefore, I'd like to say a bit about it's important that we take up what is available to us in today's current climate. We're facing the pandemic with COVID and so if we are called for our vaccination, if we haven't, once we've sort of like studied everything, if it's beneficial for us to be able to go through that, again, going for our screening, whether it be breast, bowel or cervical, and report any changes in our body. If we look after ourselves, then we can look after those who are around us. And as women, we play a vital role in the community and our families, bringing up our children. So if we look after ourselves, we look after our health, we can look after others. And I'd like to read a poem, recite a poem that I came across while I was looking at this. And it's called The Owl and the Chimpanzee. And I'd like to just read it out to you, if I can find it. And it's a poem by somebody called Joe Camacho. The owl and the chimpanzee went to sea in a beautiful boat called the Mind. The owl was sensible, clever and smart. The chimp was a little behind. The owl made decisions based on fact and knew where to steer its ship. The chimp reacted a little too fast, and often the boat would tip. The waves would come and crash aboard. The chimp would start to cry. Large tears would roll right down his face, afraid that he would die. The chimp and the owl would wrestle at night, and when the world was quiet and still, the chimp would jump up and rock the boat, and the boat would start to fill. Then the owl stepped in and grabbed a pail and started to empty it out, and the chimp would start to get quite cross and would often scream and shout, until the chimp started to see that if it let the owl take control, a more peaceful night it would be. So basically this poem sort of like talks about, I think it's really quite apt for this time in our lives when we're facing the pandemic, we're all in lockdown, that it's an internal conflict, which is sort of like normal as human beings. And we can sort of like sometimes learn to control our sort of like primitive and scared brain, and more often and listen to our inner owl, and we'll enjoy a more peaceful journey. So that's what I'd like to sort of like just recite today. And if we all reflect on our own sort of like health and our mental well-being for us and for those around us as well.
Thank you
and
so
that's
much.
all I have to say today. And on that note, I will love you and leave you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Well done. And that lovely poem as well. Have you been vaccinated, by the way? I have.
Yes, I've been vaccinated. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you, Nabila, for that reminder. Up next, we have Chitra. She's an IT consultant by profession and a meditation practitioner since 1996. She's originally from India and currently volunteers as a core team member of Inner Space Activities in Manchester. Today, she will be presenting For Women presentation.
Hello. Nice to be part of this wonderful event, what's happening now. And I'm going to share about the 4 phases of women's. And the 4 phases is a wonderful exploration into a freeing ourselves from the limiting beliefs. These phases are easily recognized by every woman. They are the phase of authenticity, conformity, or rebellions, or of spiritual power. It has been given the 4 names. I'm going to say that 4 names for the 4 phases. The first phase is eternal phase. The second phase is traditional phase. And the third phase is modern phase. And the fourth is a Shakti, which means the powerful phase. So what it means is the eternal phase is of, it's our original self. It's our true self, or the essence whom we are born as. And we want to be like that. It carries the truth of authenticity, power, authentic power, our innate innocence, pure love, peace, freedom, and joy. Actually, we are born like that. It simply says that's I am. And during the journey of our life, we get on the second phase, which is actually the phase which we have adopted from our society and family. And that phase we adopt is because we want to belong. There is a sense of belonging. There is a sense of security or acceptance and approval. It can serve us or it can stifle. It's kind of, its mental chime says, I am who you say I am. That's a traditional phase. But now comes the modern phase. The modern phase is fighting the boundaries, seeking the freedom to begin with a new way of living. Basically, want to return to the truth of who we are, but often lost in the struggle. That's because it gets mired in the feeling of anger and animosity. And it says with indigenous that I am not who you are, say I am. It's coming from that space of anger and rebellion, kind of animosity. The fourth phase is something called a Shakti phase, a powerful phase. Actually, this phase comes from spiritual wisdom. It comes from the strength that coming from the being truly true to ourselves, and it comes from the intimate relations of the source and the divine. That's a key to return to our original self. And these spiritual powers usually, it's not a power of muscular or anything else. It's a power to withdraw, it's a power to pack up, it's power to tolerate, it's a power to accommodate, it's a power to discern, power to judge, power to cooperate, power to face. These are the actually 8 powers which we able to free ourselves blindly or being obedient and or freeing from ourselves from anger and animosity. And this way says, I access my power to be who I am. And this phase is able to return back to the original who we are. And I'm embracing the traditional phase along with and the modern phase. I'm saying that assertive, not being aggressive, being assertive, certain things which we wanted to be truthful, at the same time not lost with those struggle we get into. So these are the 4 different phases the women can have a journey through the lifetime. And it's nice to reflect on each phases and see that which phase is kind of returning back to the eternal phase, which who we are really, which is a freedom and a joy and peaceful, pure love, authentic power and a strength. So this is actually done as a workshop to help women to go into and explore their strength and find out the space in their life and to be ease with and they gain self-respect and self-esteem and dignity in whatever they are doing in their life. So these are the things I would like to share today as a part of women's event, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Chitra. Just a reminder, Chitra is from the Brahma Kumaris community.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chitra. That was wonderful. Hopefully we can soon attend one of the workshops.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Nidhi, who is a member of the Hindu community and works to engage with other communities as well. She also works full-time as the Dean of Manchester Cathedral's PA and is a member of Manchester Climate Change Board, Our Faith, Our Planet, the Greater Manchester Faith Leaders Group, and coordinator for Sangha, Connecting People, Building Bridges. Over to you, Nidhi.
Sorry, I forgot I was on mute, so I've unmuted myself. Namaste, walaikum salam, sat sri akal, shalom, and greetings to everybody. Just wanted to very quickly, I know it's constrained, but thank Qaisra for such a wonderful afternoon. It's been great having all these women and men empowering one another. And one thing leads to another in our lives. And Qaisra did ask me to put a folk dance together, which I have done, but listening to everybody today, I've just changed slightly direction because I have so much enthusiasm to share something else. So on that note, my daughter, who is also, she's a poet, and at the age of 17, she wrote a poem, and that led me to a charity. And this is the charity. I don't know if you can see it. It's called Women and Girls, and it's to do with period poverty, which is very close to my heart because, you know, if you think about women who can't even afford to have sanitary pads or, you know, any of that, it breaks my heart because what do they do? And that thought stays with me. And so my daughter wrote a poem, and they selected her as the winner for the poem, and that's what led me to this charity, which is incredible. So I just want to read out this poetry, and it's very, very strong, very powerful. And they're actually going to be at our International Women's Day for Sangha on Tuesday at 6:30. But I'll just read you this poem out. And here it is. It's called Free Flowing Fighter. She bleeds from her pain, seeping inside these unspoken frustrations of tightened teeth, shameless scars, invisible impediments of the womb. He bleeds from scratched skin, armored with visible cuts, thick, blind to her covered cries. He averts his eyes. She, safe in a secure pod, with the knowing nod of those high pony-tailed heroes and free-flowing fighters. They bleed from their pain, seeping inside these unspoken frustrations, merely glanced at by the eye. But their fists clench in some soldiery, salvage solidarity for that girl on the bench. Is her, is them, is us. We bleed from our pain, seeping from these outspoken frustrations. So that is Fighter, and it's about giving women and girls comfort, dignity, and freedom. They have a website if you're interested in donating or helping those who can't afford period. It's all about period poverty. So thank you so much for that. And sorry I diverted, but you've all given me so much strength to talk about empowering other women. And so hopefully another time we can do the folk dance. Thank you very much.
Is it okay? Thank you so much for that. You're welcome to divert, Nidhi. Can we play that video of the lady?
Yes, indeed. So am I able to share? Are you able to share?
Yes, we can. Steve, if you're ready, please play that of the lady dancing outside.
মোদের গৌরব মোদের আশা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা মোদের গৌরব মোদের আশা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা মাগো তোমার কোলে মাগো তোমার কোলে তোমার বলে কতই শান্তি ভালোবাসা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা মোদের গৌরব মোদের আশা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা কি জাদু বাংলা গানে কি জাদু বাংলা গানে গান গে দার মাঝি টানে গে গান নাচে বাউল গে গান নাচে বাউল গান গে ধান কাটে চাষা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা মোদের গৌরব মোদের আশা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা ভাষা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা মাগো তোমার কোলে মাগো তোমার কোলে তোমার বলে কতই শান্তি ভালোবাসা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা মোদের গৌরব মোদের আশা আমরি বাংলা ভাষা।
That was fab.
What a great performance. And Nidhi, if you want to share the link to the website so we can all take a look at the, just take a look at the website, that would be great.
So I just wanted to thank Poshali. Her name is Poshali Sinha, and she's a Bengali dancer, professional dancer, talking about the love of her country, the love of her language, and how she doesn't want to leave her language. And it's quite ironic that you've got a Bengali dancer outside Manchester dancing, and it's quite an irony of two countries, really. So thank you very much for all your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Namaste.
Thank you, Nidhi. Up next, we have Anita, who's a follower of the Sikh faith and is a part of an organization called Fahey, where they teach children and adults who want to learn about the Sikh faith, the history, Rakatan, and Shastar Vidhi. She will also be sharing a performance.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to MACFEST 2021. As mentioned, I'm a follower of the Sikh faith and a volunteer for an organisation called Sapai in Manchester. To begin with, I just wanted to briefly talk about women in the Sikh faith. The principles of Sikhi are that we're all genderless, and therefore both men and women have the same souls and possess an equal right to cultivate their spirituality with equal chances of achieving salvation. Within the Sikh faith, women are encouraged to participate in all religious, cultural, social and secular activities, including leading religious congregations, reading the Holy Scriptures and performing Kirtan, which essentially is a congregational singing of hymns. In today's world, you can see how Sikh women have applied the equality to their daily lives, such as Khalsa Sikh women wearing dumallas, which essentially is a head covering made of two pieces of material, often referred to as a turban, which are worn by Sikh men. Generally, Sikh women are encouraged to work alongside men. In my life, for instance, I work as a software developer, which is a profession heavily dominated by men. And over the last few years, in fact, on International Women's Day, we have run IT workshops for girls from local schools, introducing them to IT, involving all aspects of computing. As mentioned, I'm a volunteer for Sapai, a concept which underlies the Sikh faith. Sant meaning spiritual experience and Sapai meaning warrior spirit. Both of these concepts can be attained through the blessings of Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, an eternal energy force. Based upon these two concepts, I've helped to establish and grow an organisation in Manchester which teaches Sikh history, Kirtan and Shastra Vidya, which essentially is the study and practice of Sikh martial arts. As a Sikh woman, these two concepts further reinforce the values of equality. I have been blessed not to only learn how to defend myself and others, but also to strengthen my spirituality and in turn help others. Alongside the practice of Shastra Vidya, I, along with my daughter, have studied the disciplines of Jiu-Jitsu and Karate and have achieved multiple black belts. We use these skills to help others as well as conduct workshops and performances as part of Sant Sapai. I'm going to show you some clips from various performances Sant Sapai have done, including training videos. The focus being Sikh women in Manchester. I hope you enjoy. So I guess that's over to you, Steve.
thank you, Anita, for sharing that. It's great to see women and girls getting involved in sports that we don't normally get to see. Up next, we have Manjari, who is one of the trustees for Faith Network from Manchester and also represents the Jain community in Manchester. By profession, she is a private practitioner as a physiotherapist. Manjari, I'll hand it over to you to introduce your performance.
Namaste. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Namaste. Thank you so much for inviting me to this amazing International Women's event. I'm just going to give you a little insight into Jainism as a faith. Jainism is one of the oldest religions in the world and was founded by Lord Mahavir, who according to Jain philosophy had attained enlightenment through meditation and self-realization. Lord Mahavir is one of the gods worshipped by all the Jains in the world. And the main thing about Jainism, what they believe in, is ahimsa, which means non-violence. It is a faith and religion separate from Hinduism, and also respects all faiths in totality, which is why today being part of this interfaith event is so important, because it brings everyone together. And thank you to Qaisra for inviting me. I would like to introduce you to a 10-year-old girl by the name of Hiya Shah, who will represent the Mahavir Janma Kalyanak dance to represent the Jain faith today.
अपने जैन धर्म की सबसे अनमोल ये घड़ी, अपने जैन धर्म की सबसे अनमोल ये घड़ी, जन्म कल्याणक है आया छाई खुशियाँ बड़ी, जन्म कल्याणक है आया छाई खुशियाँ बड़ी। ओ कृष्णा नंदन राज दुलारा झूले फूलों की लड़ी, कृष्णा नंदन राज दुलारा झूले फूलों की लड़ी। आओ मिलकर हम मनाए आज मंगल ये घड़ी, चलो मिलकर हम मनाए आज मंगल ये घड़ी। महावीर के तत्वों को जीना भी होगा, मानना नहीं उन्हें जानना भी होगा, मानना नहीं उन्हें जानना भी होगा। आचरण में कर तुम लाओ तो सफलता है बड़ी, आचरण में कर तुम लाओ तो सफलता है बड़ी। जीवन में नई आशा की कड़ी, रंग लाएगी जीवन में नई आशा की कड़ी। अपने जैन धर्म की सबसे अनमोल ये घड़ी, जन्म कल्याणक आया है छाई खुशियाँ बड़ी। ओ समता अहिंसा का बीज उसने बोया, पंथों की लड़ाई में वो कहीं पे है खोया, पंथों की लड़ाई में वो कहीं पे है खोया। फिर से एक हो जाए हम यही मांग है अभी, फिर से एक हो जाए हम यही मांग है अभी। साथ मिलकर हम चले तो मिट जाए मुश्किलें बड़ी, साथ मिलकर हम चले तो मिट जाए मुश्किलें बड़ी। अपने जैन धर्म की सबसे अनमोल ये घड़ी, अपने जैन धर्म की सबसे अनमोल ये घड़ी, जन्म कल्याणक आया है छाई खुशियाँ बड़ी, जन्म कल्याणक आया है छाई खुशियाँ बड़ी। जब
Thank you so much, mashallah. That was wonderful. What a way to end. Okay.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you for sharing, Manjari.
Welcome.
So our final guest is Kate Maggs, who is a trustee at We Stand Together, and she also works for a charity in Greater Manchester, which supports people with autism and learning disabilities from all backgrounds and cultures. I'll give it over to you, Kate.
Thank you so much. I don't really know how to follow any of that, to be perfectly honest. What an absolutely wonderful and uplifting and inspiring event, and a really fabulous way to start celebrating International Women's Day, which I think we all know is more than a day, isn't it? It's there's events going on, I think, for the whole of March across numerous organisations, but this has been absolutely wonderful. It is my absolute honour to be asked to extend a vote of thanks to all those people who have inputted into this event, to our chief guests, hosts, partners, participants, and all of you that have joined us via Zoom or Facebook as part of this. It's been such a rich sharing of culture and heritage, and been a really lovely way to spend a Sunday afternoon with you all. Once again, Qaisra and the MACFEST team have created an exceptional event, which I'm sure will leave us all informed and enlightened. Certainly I'm going away with a whole lot of information and knowledge that I didn't have before. So from the beauty of art, literature and poetry to comedy, dance, fabulous dance, to health advice, we've all, I think, this afternoon been treated to a really rich and diverse selection of experiences which will last long into our memory. I've never been more proud to be a woman. May sound daft, but I think events like this really do bring us together, and it's always an absolute pleasure to work with other organisations to be part of these kind of events. So thank you to absolutely everybody involved. I'm always worried that I'll miss people out. But there are so many people that are involved with MACFEST who are responsible for kind of pulling all this together. There's people behind the scenes that we don't even see. Steve, I know, has done a tremendous job today pulling together all the comms and stuff. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kate, to you for joining us, and you're a marvellous fellow colleague for We Stand Together. Thank you for your kind words. And thank you to our two hosts, Sandra and Hadija. Well done, guys. And I'll say thank you from me to the three guests from other countries. I know them, so I'll thank them. Marie, Chris, and Kevin. So if you're still with us, really grateful that you're here. So thank you from us for MACFEST. Thank you, everyone. And hopefully you'll join us for Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and next week.